want to move down south to Miami, where development is booming. But the market, especially in the current environment, is also ripe for fraud. It's the last thing our economy needs, but it's still happening. And there's a new lawsuit that alleges that a trio of Ecuadorian businessmen ripped off more than 100 people to the tune of $250 million lost in a Ponzi scheme. Our correspondent John Huddy joins us live from Miami with more on this story. John, I know we're talking coronavirus everywhere, but in a way, this actually has to do with it because our economy right now is so ripe for people to be taking advantage of one another. Here's a great example of how it happened even before we had this situation.
Yeah, that's true, Scotty. And this particular case, by the way, remains in Miami-Dade Circuit Court. It was first reported actually by a website called The Real Deal, which is a South Florida real estate news website. And according to that report, and we also did some digging, but according to that report, 162 investors of mostly South American descent sued three men. A guy named Juan Carlos Cortez, Roberto Cortez, apparently of no relation, just different spellings on the last name, and then Ernesto Huayson, all Ecuadorian, and their companies, Biscayne Group and South Bay Holding, alleging in the suit that they committed securities fraud by basically issuing worthless promissory notes on non-existent real estate projects in the Miami area. Now, the suit alleges that the three began trying to develop basically real estate projects, developments in the Miami area. We're talking about Key Biscayne, and then expanded to lots and club memberships, not only in Miami, but also a little further south to Key Largo. But the properties apparently weren't financially viable, and they were essentially hemorrhaging money. But instead of accepting the loss and facing that reality and disclosing the situation to their investors, they instead kept fleecing people to fund their lavish lifestyles, according to the lawsuit. Now, the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, slapped the Cortezes and Huayson with a cease and desist order back in 2016, and they're currently being sued by another well-known South Florida and Miami developer for fraud and breach of trust as well. Essentially, the bottom line here is that they lied to the investors all along about their company, saying they had all these great investments going on and developments on track, when in reality, everything was dead in the water and nothing was on track. Now, doing some digging, I found a previously held address for their company located on Brickell Avenue here in the Brickell area of Miami. I know the location well. I know the area. I know the building specifically that they apparently used for their business address, and it's been up for sale for quite some time, at least more than a year, at least in the time that I've been here. I drive by it all the time, and it's a very nice building. It's a really nice piece of property. I was just discussing it with my wife the other day, how much it would probably go for. So I know for a fact that property's been up for sale. We reached out to some of the numbers listed on the address, but they've since been disconnected, and it's unclear at this point where these guys are. It's certainly possible they've already left the country. We don't know. We're continuing to look into it. But that said, this is one of several risky ventures that people found themselves caught up in here in Miami with the property boom over the last 10 to 15 years here, particularly in the Brickell area. There's been a ton of construction, ton of development, and there's a lot of that continuing today, even around the building where our bureau is located. The question is, how many more schemes like this are underway? Many of these people are South American descent. There's a lot of money coming in from South America to the United States, people investing in properties, and the question is, how many are really getting taken for a ride and swindled out of their money? There's also a push to have more transparency about some of the money. This is kind of a side note, sidebar story, but some of the money coming into the United States, there's concerns about money laundering, that some of the money is criminal, coming from various parts of Latin and South America. But again, as far as this story goes, a big lawsuit, big concerns, a Ponzi scheme, a lot of people out of money, and a lot of concerns about what happens next year.
Well,
we'll continue
John,
to follow it, Scotty.
I know you will, and John, I hope that you do these stories, because that's the only way to keep this from happening, is just to inform the public. Thank you for following.
You bet.